Very cool background. You guys look like you're in my favorite CD shop from 1997.
Well, we
Man,
do have some CDs over
don't
there.
Toy Story still existing?
Yeah,
CD place? Man, that was a good time.
it's coming back though. A lot of
Is
people,
it?
yeah, a lot of
Physical copies are, yeah.
cassettes
Vinyl
and
is,
stuff.
CDs and cassettes. I know vinyl is, but I don't.
Vinyl.
Well, in the metal world, definitely cassettes.
Yeah.
Like a lot of death metal bands, they're putting out cassettes like crazy.
Yep.
Really, that's awesome. My favorite thing about the old CD stores is walking in and having the rack of headphones, and you could just take whatever CD
Oh, yeah.
and listen to it, And I had like a system of, okay, it's got a cool cover. I'll give this a go. You listen to the first 30 seconds of the first song, and then I went to number 7. And it's so funny because the drummer in, well, most of my bands, Johnny Venus, who I met in high school, like one of the reasons that we connected was from music. And I told him about that, and he goes, bro, I do the same thing, but number 9. I give number 9 the first 30 seconds, and if it rips, I'm getting it. And I go, dude, did you do that with Silverchair Frog Stomp? And he goes, yes. I was like, me too.
Hey, by the way, is that one of the greatest records ever, or what? They were like in
dude.
high school, right?
Yeah, they were. You know what? One of the reasons it not only was a great record, but it was such an inspirational tale. And they're the same age as me and Johnny, so like we connected. We have Silverchair tattoos. He only has one tattoo, and it's a frog, and I have the orange frog, and he has the blue and green one from inside.
Yeah.
Inside the cover. So yeah, we owe our friendship and kind of our careers to bonding over that first Silverchair record. Plus, I don't know if you're a Silverchair fan, but like the progression of their records into diorama, like that dude is one of the smartest modern musicians of our time.
Yeah.
I love their second album. It started with one of my favorite movies ever is Shine. With David Helfgott. And the second album starts with David Helfgott doing
Oh, no kidding.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Killer.
Really cool.
Yo, this is Moon Valjean from 1,000 different bands, all of which are your favorite, and you are watching and listening to Vulgar Display of Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Vulgar Display of Podcast live from the Barn Studio. You got the Mox, Anthony, and Chuck here.
Hey.
Hey. And we're joined online with Moon from Goldfinger, Greek Fire, 105.7 The Point, and a million other things. Moon, how are you, man?
I'm doing very well. It's the best day of my life. Thank you for asking. How are you guys doing?
Man, not the best day, but second best day. Pretty good. It's top 3 for sure. Thanks for joining us today, especially doing this on such short notice. We are excited. Surfside presents BOB-A-RINO'S Class of 2003 reunion show, Saturday, November 29th at Off Broadway, which you will be playing with some other awesome bands, Last Flight Home, Bi-Level, Enemy, Airship, and A Symphony of Punches. And you're doing an acoustic set, right?
Yeah, I'm going to do a solo kind of broken down thing. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it all acoustic or if it's just me and a plugged in guitar, but I think I'm going to bring a musician friend, maybe Chris Hobbs from Cavo and Greek Fire and Misfit Machine. He may accompany me, so we might get a little bit of a duo kind of thing, but something broken down and kind of special, something that I honestly haven't done like this in close to 15 years. So this is a pretty special kind of thing for me, at least.
Yeah, and I know, so we're in our studio's in Farmington, and I know you have played at least the Rock House in maybe today back in the day. I want to say early 2000s, maybe 2001 or 2. Does that sound right?
It sounds right, yeah. And, I want to thank you for having me on, first of all. But anybody talking about maybe today, that's an interesting period because it was an experience. That band was only technically together and doing shows as maybe today for 1 year, so it had to be 2002. And the wild thing is, we played a lot of shows and we did a lot of things, even with some bigger folks, and nobody was ever there. So then to have all these people be like, "Oh, I've been with you since maybe today, and I followed you since maybe today." I was like, "Really? Where are you? I feel
Where the
like
hell were you?
I feel like I would have known your face." But yeah, it was funny. I was like working at Hot Topic at the time too, and people would come in after that band was done and be like, "Yo, you're my favorite band." I was like, "We can't be. I don't recognize your face, brother." Like,
you're
what?
not my mom, so so you're definitely not. We're definitely not your favorite band. But yeah,
no, we did do Rock House, and that was some special. Those were special memories. And you know what? I'll tell you, not to get too far off track, but like, we all came from St. Louis, and me and Johnny grew up in South County, and we're just nerd kids that didn't come from like a music background. We didn't know what we were doing, so we were just going to every venue that we had seen our favorite bands at. We're handing out flyers. We're trying to play these venues, and we would finally get into some of these venues in St. Louis and play these shows, and nobody was there. We played with Taking Back Sunday. There was 4 people there, 2 there for them, 2 there for us, and we were doing this whole thing. That was maybe today's like first show, by the way. And we were doing this thing and just like struggling. And then we'd play in places that are periphery to St. Louis. Like there's this place like it was in Warrenton or something. I forget the name of it. But then we'd play Washington at this place with like a checkered floor. And then we played Rock House in Farmington. And there was like scenes in these towns, and we kind of cut our teeth before we were in Maybe Today in this rapcore band that we used to play at this place called the Sun House or something down in Sullivan or St. Clair. Like it was like all the peripheral towns and cities around St. Louis all had their own scenes, and all of a sudden we would meet bands that were playing shows together and doing like a circuit. There was like a circuit of outside of St. Louis bands, and Farmington like was ripping, dude. Ripping those rock house shows. Like we didn't know how to promote. We were just like showing up and hoping people were there. We didn't even know how that magic happened or the science happened of getting people to shows. But you go down to the rock house and there's 150 people, and they're not only there, they're like willing to love you and react and get in on something that you're doing if you were halfway decent. So shout out to those years and those towns and the people that put those things together, like the rock house.
There's something to be said about small town and communities, and like you're talking about the scenes. And, I mean, I think this show specifically is a celebration. Joey O'Farrell is obviously putting it on. He was a huge part of the Farmington scene. And our claim to fame, we have 2 claims to fame in this area. 1, Waylon Jennings played our fair, which is awesome.
Sick.
And 2, Fallout Boy played our pizza place, BOB-A-RINO'S Pizza.
Yeah, dude.
So that's like our, we put those high on our list. But I think this show specifically, it's going to be a lot of fun to see a lot of old faces, hear some songs that maybe you haven't heard in a while. And we're really excited about it.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. There's all this huge money-making opportunities in Vegas and out west that are taking advantage of all the nostalgia and all that. And most of it I think is great. Some of it looks a little nostalgia for nostalgia's sake, whereas like something like this that's being put together is a true like celebration. Of course, we want to pack the place and all that, but I mean, I think everybody that's a part of the show is most excited to see one another and share the stage with one another. Like we're still here. We're still alive. We're still doing this. We still have something to give to music, and we're just using music as an excuse to have this reunion, basically. At least in my eyes, when Joey first, kind of threw the idea at me, I was like, yeah, Last Flight Home's doing a thing again. Yeah. And then when the bi-level got added, I was like, you gotta be kidding me, dude. Like this is what all of us old heads that like came up and were cutting teeth and just like struggling in 01, 02, 03, but loved every second of it. This is what we want to do, is we want to kind of literally live that feeling again with one another,
Yeah, just that the excitement you just had and speaking about it, I think is a huge testament to that time period here and what it meant to everybody. Not only the people who aren't musicians, not in the bands, but who are going and watching it, and just that excitement around that time frame.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited, and like I said, it's gonna be a special show for me. I don't have the whole band, but I would have been there at the show anyway as a fan, not only to see the Last Flight guys and Bi-Level and the other bands, but some of my old friends that are in the new band, Symphony of Punches, are going to be playing. So like, just to be able to have the opportunity to jump up on stage and do a couple of my old songs from different bands, whether it's Story of the Year stuff or Goldfinger stuff or Greek Fire stuff, or heck, even maybe today. Maybe I'll try to figure out what I was singing back then and do something like that. And nobody's going to sing along, and I'm going to say, see, all of you fools are lying. It was a cool band, but it was wild. We were a misplaced amalgam of ideas, which, I think most of us around 01, 02 were. And some of us continued on into music for the rest of our lives, and some, put it on the shelf for a bit, but it was a cool time where we were coming out of that 90s thing that like rock and roll had not established itself, but like rock and roll had our brand of rock and roll, our themes, you know, from Limp Bizkit to Incubus to whatever, like had conquered radio and now fully controlled it. Because if you remember, like alternative radio didn't exist until U2 kind of forced it into some other mainstream radio things throughout the 80s, and then the 90s happened, and then you had 94 explosion, you know, with all the grunge had kind of taken the early 90s, and that's when like alternative radio became like a business, you know, 1990, 1991. So by 2000, it was like, it was a reality. It was a solidified reality. And for us that were a product of all that, doing music, we were trying to do something so different and so not even weird, but just like we were just trying to combine unique combinations of things. And I think every band in every city, for the most part, was doing their version of that. And this is a very, obviously, a small crumb of what was happening then, but the Last Flight guys, the Bi-Level guys, and us, you know, we were a part of that DNA forming that new twist on rock, which obviously became post-hardcore and screamo and emo and all that, and exploded shortly after. But we were in the fetal phases of all that, trying to be Hopesfall and, you know, those kind of bands.
Which played Farmington, by the way.
Yeah.
Sick. See, that's what I'm saying. Like it was like a scene, and we were just trying to like be a part of it and put our twist on it.
I remember when 105.7 started. Before then, listening to music like we listened to, you would have to, what we used to do, because down here from Farmington, we didn't have a store where you can go get CDs, and we would all pool our money together and go, okay, I'm buying these 3, you buy these 3, you buy these. So now we have 9, and we can have 9 albums, you know.
It was like socialism, kind of like CD socialism.
Figuring it out.
Dude, same with video games. You buy Excite Bike and I'll buy Punch Out.
Well, you're talking about like South County, like CD Warehouse in Arnold. We were talking off air about like listening stations. It was CD Warehouse, right?
CD Warehouse, yeah.
There's one there, yeah.
We would
CD
go
Warehouse and Tesson, yeah.
Yeah, you buy 3, I buy 3, and then they're kind of all of ours. It's like a collective thing, but I think that's part of the community. That's part of like the shared experience when it comes to music. And I don't, you know, I'm an old man. I'm in my 40s with gray hair, so I don't know what it's like these days, but it doesn't seem like it's that much connected, social connection like it used to be.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know how much social commentary you want out of me in something like this, but you know, I've tried to supply life for my family. I've tried to support my family with music since 2002, and you know, in most industries, you kind of flipping the industry or having a new take or a new tech or something like that to change the industry every decade, if you're lucky, or maybe every 2 decades. With music, you know, this business has changed every 2.5 years for me. I have to relearn what it is it takes to sell music to be able to even survive and continue to make music. And I'm a success story, you know, like there's platinum and gold records here, and I can't trade that for Ameren electricity. You know what I'm saying? So like the plaques are cool, but I'm not dismissing what those accomplishments mean, but like, you know, I've been trying to survive and pay the bills with music. And to do so, you really do have to pay attention to how people are consuming your music, not necessarily as an artist, so you're catering your next bit of music to that, but you have to understand where you're playing or where you're being played. And, you know, I've had kids pretty much my whole life since 1998. Watching my oldest daughters, who are in their 20s now, consume music, and even their current habits based on their young habits is so very different than my younger kids. My younger kids have pretty much only grown up in a streaming era, so they understand songs as being, it doesn't matter how long it is, they're only going to listen to it for about 40 seconds, and then they can skip it and skip it and skip it and skip it, because they have 10 million of their favorite songs available. Whereas if I didn't like tracks 7, 8, 9, and 10, but I loved 11 and 12, I was probably still going to have to listen to 7, 8, 9, and 10, you know, at least 50% of the time, because I didn't want to get up and change the CD player or whatever the heck it was. So there was like an understanding of how I digested music that then turned into how I respected or liked it or was influenced by it or whatever. So I'm not going to sit here and say that one is better than the other. Obviously, we would tend to think that our way of doing it was the best because we turned out so awesome, right? But it is, as you mentioned, it's less of a social thing because kids are more isolated now, especially when they're listening to music. Now, they're still driving around and they're listening to whatever they want to listen to. But you are right. There was a collective, at least being in lower middle income households, where your buddy had all the Alice in Chains stuff and you had all the Soundgarden stuff, and it was like an understanding. Well, if I only got $18 for my allowance or whatever, that's only one CD. So you cover the new Alice in Chains, I'll cover the new Soundgarden or whatever the heck it was. So there was a social aspect built into how we had to consume it. Plus, you had to go to a record store. I couldn't have that shipped. I mean, I guess you did the Columbia House thing for a minute, but like you had to go somewhere.
A lot of times.
Yeah, you had to go somewhere. So think about that. If I take pride in the things that I build, which is very, very, very few things because I'm terrible with my hands. If I went to a great effort to make this bathroom floor tiled this way, you better believe I'm going to stare at that dang tile every time I go in there and think about how awesome I am and how awesome this bathroom is. But if it came to me for free and somebody else did it and I didn't see it happen or something like that, I'm just not going to appreciate it in the same way. I had to get on my freaking Dyno VFR, which was not the cool dyno. It was the crappy heavy one. And I had to take that all the way up to Now Hear This or Street Side Records or CD Warehouse down in Tucson Ferry that took me an hour to get to. And I had to find the CD that I liked. And then I had to make like a bet. It was like a bet. Does this CD suck? Does this band suck?
It was a gamble.
It was a gamble. And I took that gamble, and it was like, it was a heartfelt decision. It was a heartfelt risk. And I took that risk and I took it home, and now there's some pride, and I better like this shit. You know what I mean? Like it better be good. And if it's not, I'm still going to defend it because it's in my CD collection now. You know what I mean? Like I got a whole bunch of CDs back here. I don't know if you can see them, but those are like all my OG.
What's back there? What's a couple of them back there?
Buddy. I haven't looked at this in forever. Let's see. I've got the original POD Brown record.
Nice.
The original Seven Dust. Which one? That's Home. I have Incubus and Joy. Let's see. Disciples of Christ, Righteous Funk. I have Charlie Daniels Super Hits. Snot, Get Some.
Oh, good one.
Yeah.
Project 86. I guess both of the first records. Black Hawk. POD, The Warriors EP. A bunch of U2 stuff, which is interesting because I didn't have that when I was a kid. I didn't understand them until I was 30. Celtic Inspirations, Incubus, Science, and some other weird ones. I could do that all day, but that those were investments, and like those were things that I put effort into acquiring. So naturally, I'm gonna have to. I'm ever so pot committed with listening or even being a fan of those records or bands. Whereas my kids, something will pop up that's on a playlist that maybe it got paid for to even be there. And if it catches their attention, whatever sound or lyric or bad word in the first 5 seconds, then they give it another 30 seconds and they say they liked it, and then they switch it off. Or they heart it or whatever. So there's just not the investment in the art anymore. There's not the effort. So why would we assume that they should have the same relationship with music as we did when the efforts are so greatly different? And again, I'm not here to say one is right or one is wrong, but understanding that my kids aren't going to be fans of bands in the same way that I am, because of the lack of the effort that it takes to discover this band is a sign of the times, and is like just a truth, and that's fine. I'm not exactly sure how to maneuver around that as a 44-year-old songwriter, but you just keep hacking and and keep going, dude. I don't remember what the question was, but
That's a great observation.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
You didn't even give the guy credit. Like, oh, Chad found that band like that.
Yeah.
He's the one who found that one. Yeah, get credit for finding guys.
And then you show it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Comes even.
No, that wasn't me. That was Chad. Chad found that band. Yeah, you give people credit.
oh, dude, that's so funny you say that because I was thinking about the Snot thing. I literally bought that Snot record before, like, well, I guess Snot was never like big, but I bought it because I liked the album cover, the dog, Dobbs, the dog with the tennis ball, and I was like, yo, that's cool. And it just so happened I took it home and I showed Johnny, and Johnny was like, dude, that's the sickest record. We got into it, and he showed me a band called Stavesacre because he liked this one song. Yep. So like, and all of a sudden, Stavesacre was in the Christian scene that we were in. At Cornerstone, and like I still associate Stavesacre with Johnny, like because Johnny was like the first one to understand that band, and kind of
30 years later.
Yeah, and like you also had that friend too, and tell me if I'm striking a nerve here. You had the friend that translated the band to you, because there was plenty of bands that I was exposed to that I was like, no, it's not for me. But you have a friend sit you down and go, don't you understand? Like, listen to this. And then listen to that. And then I go, oh, like I had to like unwrap it for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that happened with Tool. I remember in high school, I was like, I am not a Tool fan. Tool sucks. And the only reason I said that is because the Tool fans that I knew were not my style of guy. And so I just assumed, I was like, if that guy likes that band, that ain't for me. But it took somebody, this nerd that didn't seem like a Tool fan, come up and be like, yo, but just listen to this and sit down and try to play this with me. And then I was like, oh, okay, maybe this band rips. Maybe this band rips. And then you get into it because you trust someone that just like kind of translated it for you. And I don't think that happens anymore. I don't think my kids care about anybody enough to translate it to a friend.
I could see that, definitely.
Yeah, that's the same with my kids. I have 3 daughters, and it's very 30-second clips, and and that's a product of their environment and social media and all that, and we can yell at the sky all we want. But yeah, that's my experience with my daughters as well.
But we would be the same way. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's why I don't blame them. We would, if we had that kind of access. Of course, I want to experience everything, and I don't need more than 40 seconds of it. You know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, the byproduct of that is it's killed the bridge. Like, listen to every radio song now. Like, so I'm also in a band called the Teenage Dirtbags, right? And we just do 90s alternative. And then we have Alabama Dirtbags, which is 90s country. And it's all super fun and shtick and whatever, but like we rip, dude. And we were rehearsing yesterday because we're playing Ballpark Village this weekend. And we were going over some songs we might want to add. And there wasn't one. Fellas, there wasn't one that was under 4 minutes and 50 seconds.
You can't do that now.
And even I was like, that is too much. Like, we're going to cut the third verse, or we're going to cut this bridge down, or what, so I'm like, now I'm curating to the audiences, because a lot of these 90s songs, even though they're great in their purity, they're boring as all hell, dude. Like super, super boring songs, which is fine. They're still great. But I'm sitting there going, well, no wonder the bridge died, because like nobody has this kind of time anymore, and these kids shouldn't have to. Now, does that suck? Yeah, it sucks for me, because I thought I was one of the best bridge writers that I've ever met. Like, I prided myself on helping my bands develop dynamics in a song. That was my thing. That's what I brought to the table.
Here comes the key change,
brother. That's me. Hey, what variety can we put on here? What stank can we put on here that makes this our band and only our band? That was my specialty, and that has been, for the most part, pushed out.
Turns out Hatebreed way ahead of the game on the 2-minute song.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I mean, why do you think there's a pop punk resurgence? Why do you think that? Yeah. Because it's literally a format that already that like fits perfectly into this.
Mm-hmm.
It's catchy. It's no nonsense. You can do it with 3 or 4 chords. Like, a kid can pick it up. Like, I mean, it's accessible, and it'll live a lot longer than anybody ever gave it credit for in 2000, when people were like, that's not real punk. Well, no, it's a different variety that's much more accessible, especially now.
Yeah. So, Moon, you just mentioned like your pride a few minutes ago, and you mentioned that you have some accolades hanging up on your wall and stuff. What are some of the major personal accomplishments that you've had in your career, either with music, radio, whatever, that you're personally super proud of?
Well, I'm just super, super blessed to be in the position that I am in. I'm, just a semi-poor South County St. Louis kid that was told nobody from St. Louis could ever do this. And I had a tenacity and a craziness about myself that was like, well, thanks for telling me I can't do it because now I have to prove you wrong. Now I'm going to do this. But to be honest, like when you say accomplishments or accolades and whatever, my biggest one is that I'm able to do this. So the fact that I'm able to pay the bills in entertainment, I'm on academic probation from St. Louis Community College, so I have no education, although I consider myself a fairly well-read person. I have no education. I have no other discernible skills other than the ability to be intentional, and like learn extremely fast and well. But in the music business and with radio and entertainment in general, like it's hard. It's so hard. So my biggest accomplishment is that I'm still doing it 20 years later, and I'm able to at least put food on the table. I'm not rich. I never have been, but I'm doing well, and I'm surviving, and that is by far the biggest accomplishment. Now, again, I don't mean to dismiss the industry accolades and all that, but if you ask my band or my old band, we never sought out to get a gold record. It didn't make sense to us. It wasn't. It's not that it didn't make sense. Like we never thought about that. Like it just didn't exist in our mind. It was never a goal. So I hate to say this because it can easily come off wrong, but when we got our gold records, the label and the management and everybody was freaking out. This was our first gold record. We have 2 and a platinum record. And when the first one happened, we were on tour, and they did this whole presentation with us and took pictures. And as a joke, the label said, "Where do you guys want to go to dinner?" And we said McDonald's, because we were like, who cares? Like it was just another day on tour. We had been touring for 2.5 years straight. We had gone from every van and broken down vans and crappy buses that caught on fire. And like, we had done this grind, whereas people saw it as like this overnight success and you guys are huge now and whatever. It's like, we've just been living this life every single day, and every single day, 10 more people than yesterday came to the concert. So it was like a slow, consistent build for us. But all we were trying to do was just live and send money home so our families could survive, and then give us an opportunity to get to the next record and do that and continue to grow it. So the accolades that came and all the successes that came, I hate to say it, like they're not that big a deal to us. I mean, it's cool to look back and be like, this is awesome. I should have slowed down and enjoyed this more. I've just never been that guy, because the next day presents its own challenges, and I'm just trying to be a good dad and a good husband and a good artist and do something that is meant to last, if that's my calling here on this earth. And that's pretty much all I think about. So as far as accomplishments go, just being able to do this in the first place, I'm the luckiest dude on earth.
Well, I would say from an outsider's perspective, and I'm just meeting you now via Zoom, but just from somebody that's an outsider, you seem to find the perfect mix of life career balance. Like, I know you're on your grind, but you do so many different things. And, I don't know what it's like being on the road, but I just kind of envision it as a dad. I imagine that can be very difficult. Like touring, I think in general has kind of changed over the years. And I want to get your take on it too, where the bands used to go out for 3 months at a time. I imagine that can really be difficult. Whereas now it seems like you're, flying out for shows, or you'll do, a couple shows in a row and just small runs to where you can still come back and do the radio and do all the different things that you're doing. Cause like we kind of joked about you being in so many bands, but it also keeps you active, keeps you busy. It keeps you, on the forefront of people's mind when they think about St. Louis musicians. So I would just say kudos to you for being on the grind all these years, and you seem to be making it work.
Thanks, man. Yeah. I don't know if there really is a balance. Cause it is a grind and it does hurt. It does hurt. and I just so happen to be in two aspects of entertainment that are on opposite schedules. I do a morning show where I wake up at 3:20, and then on the weekends I'm playing in rock shows where I'm not getting home until 3:20. You know what I mean? So it's like it's taking its toll. It's definitely taking its toll on my body at this point. But yeah, I try to be as intentional as I can with my days, and I'm pretty serious and pretty hardlined. I used to say yes a lot more. I say no more than anything now, which is good. But it was really difficult for me to do that because I was not that I was worried about what other people think, because I'm pretty skilled at not caring, but I was worried about letting people down that may have needed something from me, or you never know where things are going to go. Like these little seeds being planted can be big things for you or your family. So like I used to be a guy that just said yes to every show, and it was like, yeah, I can do this, I can do that, I can pull that off. Let's figure out how to pull it off. Whereas now I'm kind of like, that is not good for my health as much as it might be good for this. Like I need to step back. But yeah, I got a lot of balls in the air, and it does take some organization that I'm not naturally skilled at, that I've had to develop I'm now a proponent of writing things down, like having an actual physical calendar. Is dumb and elementary. Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude, as elementary as that sounds, like I know I'm a 44-year-old giving advice about write down your schedule. Like, but dude, that's everything. Like that is that one change in my life, and being able to kind of journal certain things and write it down and get it out of my head has helped my stress levels and my sleep tremendously. And I see it this way. To answer your question, I don't think that there's a real way to balance things in the way that you're saying, like a peaceful balance. But you can manage and make it work as long as you make sure you put your mental health at the forefront of everything. You know, God and family, mental health, obviously physical health and whatever. But if you are looking for kind of the secret of it, you got to keep some space for yourself. Make sure your priorities are in line, and that you're just always abiding by your priorities. Like my wife and kids are first, and then it's me and my creative endeavors, or my desires, or my wants, or my whatever it might be. Thankfully, I'm in a band with Goldfinger that's a freaking super group of frontmen and extremely talented musicians. So we don't rehearse. Like I think we've had like 4 rehearsals since I've been in the band, since like 2011, ever. And the first one ever was with Travis Barker, because he insisted on having a rehearsal.
Wow, crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. But everybody shows up and rips, brother. We ain't on no tracks. There's no click. Like everybody just shows up, and you know what you're doing. And that's the other big part, I think, too, from professional to professional, is make sure you surround yourself with people that are at your level or better. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with people that are better than you. It will pull you up. You will demand more from yourself. You will become better, and you're not constantly stressing out about if somebody else is pulling their weight, or is this other person going to pull this off, or whatever. You just surround yourself with people that you want to be, that inspire you, and that helps everything. That changes the game, changes it across the board. So that's a big one. Again, I kind of lost the plot here. I've been up since 3:20.
You don't come off as some dude that's on academic probation. So I just want to let you know that.
Yeah, well, I had 2 kids. I had 2 kids, and it turns out at the community college there's an absence policy. There's an attendance policy, and if you miss more than 3 days, it's a grade level off for every day afterwards. They didn't tell me that. I show up and I'm like, survey of rock music. I'm here for my grade, and they're like, you got an F. I was like, brother, no, I didn't. This is my zone.
This is my wheelhouse.
Yeah, I'm living this. I got all this. And they said, no, man, you missed 8 days. You got an F. Information that I should have listened to.
Yeah. Like Einstein failing math.
I could be teaching this class right now, right? I could have your job.
Yeah.
Hey, we've kept you too long. A couple more questions before we let you get out of here. We asked Steve from The Urge this question, and I want to get your take. We're building a Mount Rushmore of St. Louis bands or musicians or artists. Who's on that list for you?
Oh, my goodness. Well, Mount Rushmore has 4, right? I can only pick 4.
or 12 or I mean,
Yeah,
this
I mean,
way. No.
there are so many. So top of mind, I just did a song with Jimmy Griffin. He does this band called the Incurables. Jimmy Griffin is the guitar player for El Monstero. He does the Tom Petty tribute. Like, this dude is just an absolute shredder and a legend. He was in a bunch of bands back in the 80s that did the St. Louis scene and a little bit beyond. And he's just such a classic dude and a classic musician. I believe he deserves more of a place in St. Louis music history than he has. So I'm gonna put him on there. Obviously, like I said, he's top of mind because I was in the studio with him this week. You know who else is top of mind too? Who doesn't always get the accolades is Jerry Jost, guitar player for The Urge, and he's in Joe Dirt and a couple other bands. I really love Jost. I love his family. I played with his bud Mike, his brother Mike, who was in a band called Disturbing the Peace. That was connected to my high school. So I've been watching Mike play drums forever, and Jerry is just such a shredder guitar player and such a good dude. I'm going to connect Jerry to a guy named Duke. Duke actually taught Jimmy how to play guitar, taught Jerry how to play guitar. And I didn't take any guitar lessons from Duke, but I took bass lessons from Duke for 6 months. And really, it wasn't bass lessons because I went in there and I was like, yo, I don't care about theory. I don't want to read music. I don't care about any of this. I just want to play bass. And he said, okay. And he put headphones on me and he started a drum track and he started just shredding on the guitar. And he wrote out just like a scale or two. And he said, these are the notes in this scale. Make this sound like a band. And he taught me in a 6-month period, a half hour at a time, once a week, how to jam, like how to explore the instrument and know just the most rudimentary basic thing, which was just the form of a particular scale, and how to jam and feel it and write. And I think that changed my life. So from a personal anecdotal standpoint, and knowing his influence on guitar player after guitar player in this fine city, Duke M, or he goes by Duke Guitar in South County. Duke is he's the Washington on the Mount Rushmore.
Jeez.
I'll also add Clint Lowry, who is a St. Louisan. He's in Seven Dust, and yeah, he's a good friend. And I did an episode. I do this show called Story of the Gear that's going to be on the point here that just talks about like special stories of gear. And I did one recently with Clint, and that's one of the best people I've ever known. I love Clint's heart, and he was so influential on me in ways that I didn't understand until I was older as far as a guitar player goes. So I'll put Clint on there as well. I'm doing all guitar players right now, aren't I?
Not biased at all.
Yeah. John Pisoni from The Urge. He's a madman, like a legitimate madman. And he drums for The Urge. He drums for El Monstero. He drums for everybody, dude. But that guy, when Johnny was in the hospital, we wrote a song to try to help us really, cope with what we were going through and almost losing our friend, and we wanted to release it as fast as possible to raise money because Johnny was uninsured and these hospital bills are just crazy, right? And he's suffering with leukemia in there, and John Pisoni picked up the phone, and I knew John really well, but not like that well, not well enough to ask a professional favor. And I said, hey man, can you just come drum on this? And I sent him like a demo of the song. That dude showed up and put on one of the most spectacular, it was spiritual for me to watch what he physically did with the drums for that song. It's called called The Sound of Belief. It's on our last record that's right down on streaming services right now, but it'll be back up. I think the single's up there, but that was for Johnny, and John Pisoni performed that. And like ever since watching that and him just be a person, we played our first punk rock Christmas show with him. Pisoni is, I hate to say underrated because people that know, but everyone should know John Pisoni. John Pisoni should be as famous as Chuck Berry for all the right reasons. And I'm not putting Chuck anywhere near that Rushmore. So who else? Shoot, let me think, man. So many great so many great St. Louis musicians, and that's the difficulty too, dude. St. Louis has like such a rich history of musicians that almost got there, that almost, you know, went to the stratosphere, that could have and probably should have. And I don't know. I've never really sat there and studied why it didn't work.
Can I bring one up that I think you have a close connection
I was
with?
about to say it too, I think.
Yeah, please.
Weren't you good friends with Bob from Sophomore? Didn't you guys even like take them out maybe on a like a regional run or something?
Yeah, I worked with those dudes. Travis is, I'm still good friends with Travis. That he was the drummer in Sophomore, and that dude is a skilled musician. He was one of the best drummers in the entire state, and it turns out he's a killer guitar player, songwriter, and singer too. I think he had some like bluegrass song go kind of viral on Facebook just a couple years ago. So
Wow.
Travis Hill from Sophomore, and Nathan, the guitar player from Sophomore, again, absolute shredder. Moved to Tulsa, gave up music and whatever. I think he still plays guitar. But yeah, I knew Bob for years, and he was such a cool frontman. I love a frontman bass player, so I'm a sucker for that. But yeah, I tried to help Sophomore get on some tours and some label action. That was a cool act.
Great band, great songs. You know, if we're kind of talking about those time frames, I think of obviously Not Waiting But Drowning was on the you know, the heavier side and the crazy side, but then like Calico System and some of those, Ludo obviously, and just kind of thinking back to some of those earlier ones, and I guess I'm putting my list together now. But you have one more submission, maybe?
I'm sure I'm going to think of 30 of them after this recording is over. But no, I'll stick with that for now. I mean, there really are so many, man. St. Louis is so rich.
The Fifth Element.
Oh yeah, Jack and those guys.
yeah.
Like those dudes are great. Chris, I still talk to Jack and Chris and all those dudes. We had such a cool scene. And you know what? I will say, credit to the Farmingtons and the Warrentons and the Washingtons and all that really kind of had those little scenes, those little microcosms of music scenes did grow and did bleed over into the St. Louis scene, and even brought, like you said, Calico, some Illinois bands over. And we had a pot full of a bunch of bands that were mixing up and, you know, even kind of stealing members or borrowing members and different things throughout the 2000, 2001, 2002 period. I mean, that's how Story of the Year, you know, became what we became at the time. It was a melding of bands and personalities and people that went to high school with people, and you know, it was bound to happen. We had so many people that had the skill level to do something. It was just about work ethic, you know, and I was going to make this happen no matter what. And those four guys at the time were going to do the same. That's why we ended up being what we became, because we were the five in that moment that were willing to just
the show you guys put on stage was amazing.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, you guys are so energetic. It was fun. I don't know how the hell. I guess it was before the electric or the wireless guitars, the acrobatic with the wires. I don't know how you guys didn't kill each other.
Yeah, we had some cheap rudimentary wirelesses. When those things would come out, we would try them, and like that stuff broke all the time. But like, you know, nobody, if you're backflipping and throwing guitars across, nobody knows if your guitar just went out or if your wireless is down. Like, you know, you just keep rocking, dude. The show goes on. Yeah, we did some wild stuff. Same for Maybe Today. That's when I started doing the backflips and the guitar throws, and
that's when I became a fan.
Yeah,
Maybe Today.
Maybe Today.
Yeah, everybody did. They were all there.
The three of us were there.
Yeah.
Dude, for being a band that only was together like for a year and a half or whatever, we covered a lot of ground. We played every freaking weird festival possible. Man, we worked hard. But you know, that's what it takes. That's why I feel like that's why I'm still doing what I'm doing, is because of this this no nonsense tenacity that, like, no matter what, you know, maybe today we're only playing for 2 people and maybe tomorrow we're playing for 2,000. Like, we played the same show and we went at it and we had the same attitude before, during, and after every show, no matter what happened, no matter who was there. And I think that really, I think to this day that still is evident from any crowd that sees any of my bands, is that, like, not only do we love what we're doing, we just appreciate the opportunity. You know, that's part of our prayer right before is just thanking God for the opportunity to do something as silly as this. Like, I mean, think about how silly it is. Like playing music. It's so silly. It's so silly, dude. Like, I'm thinking of random things and what's important in my life, and maybe it connects with people, and I'm gonna write it down. I'm gonna put a couple chords to it and some changes, and you're gonna beat on these drums, and I'm gonna mess with this guitar and like put it all together, and we're gonna have something that maybe moves people, and then you get to do that on a regular basis, and we're all gonna have a collective experience that only happens right now, because tomorrow it's going to sound different. It's going to be in a different building. It's going to be under a set of different circumstances. Like music is a silly and magical thing. It's so freaking weird to think about. Even just being a fan of music, like it's magic. It's as cheesy as that is. It's silly magic. You know what I mean?
Fired up over here, buddy. Yeah. You got us fired up. I got one last question for you.
Isn't it though? Am I crazy? I know I'm a crazy person.
No, you're not. I love how personal it can be. Like one song could mean the world to me, and another person, the next person that I trust in music could think is dumb. Like, get what you're thinking is.
Dude, I mean, and think about this. I'll play the same song 2,000 times in a couple of years, and one day I'm playing it and I'm thinking about what's for dinner. I'm not even here. I'm autopilot. And then the next song, which I was autopiloting the day before, all of a sudden I feel like crying because a lyric hit me in a way that I hadn't had it hit me before, and I'm the performer. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a wild thing. Music is a roller coaster, and that's why I love it.
Mississippi Nights or Creepy Crawl?
Well, the cool answer is Creepy Crawl, but I'm gonna say Mississippi Nights, and this is why. We shot Until the Day I Die in Creepy Crawl. Like Creepy Crawl was a very, very special place, but it was like the place that you wanted to pack so you could get out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like it was the first club place, like, you know, grimy, whatever you call it, rock club that we ever played, and it was like, oh my gosh, if we could sell this place out and have 180 people in here, whatever the heck it was. But once you went to a show as a teenager at Mississippi Nights, that was the first place I ever dreamed of. That was the first place I ever dreamed, like almost like a dream beyond reality. And like I said, I'm a crazy person that feels like I take big shots and I have confidence that I'm going to make those shots. But Mississippi Nights, I distinctly remember being one of my first dreams, where I was in there looking at this place thinking, whoa, this is like the movies. And this is something that, wouldn't it be cool if I could be on that stage someday and play it? So the fact that I did before it closed down and all that, and got to play it a couple times in front of like rowdy crowds, I'm going to say Mississippi Nights is a much more special experience for me, even though I played Creepy Crawl 200 times and shot a video there, and it was like just a unique spot. It was our CBGBs. Mississippi Nights, if you're asking the real me, the heart and soul that's connected to the 18-year-old me or the 16-year-old me, Mississippi Nights was that was a trophy.
And still, when we talk to national bands, you know, specifically some from the 90s, like Blind Melon, they'll bring up Mississippi Nights and they'll ask about it. We talk to the Toadies, and you do these interviews too, so I'm sure you get the same thing.
I did some incredible shows at Creepy Crawl, and I saw some special ones, but the most special ones that I ever saw were at Mississippi Nights. Including, I saw Linkin Park open up for POD, Project 86, and Blindside on the Kings of the Game tour.
So we were both there.
Yeah, we were there.
Yeah, dude. I got a tattoo that day, and I basically had it ripped off on my back because I was in the very, very front, and these people were just destroying my tramp stamp, dude.
Do you remember at that show specifically, because Linkin Park hadn't really blown up yet? No. Do you remember them getting like almost backlash from the crowd for not being heavy enough?
Dude, and it wasn't that they weren't heavy enough. It's that they didn't scream one step closer to the edge and I'm about to break, because it was the biggest shock. I remember all of us were like, oh, this is the one song we know that the Point just started playing and Extreme Radio is starting to play, or whatever the heck was on at the time. And they came out and they ripped. I was like, whoa, this band sounds so different and so cool. This is going to be such a fun show if this is the opener. And they got to that song. They started playing it. They come in and it's da 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 da. You're like, oh my God, this is great. And we get to the chorus that is the only part that any of us know from Hybrid Theory so far. And he's like, everything you say to me. And then Mike went, because I'm one step closer to the edge and I'm about to, and everyone else, like, I remember the crowd like gasping.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Because we were all ready to scream with somebody and nobody with a microphone screamed with us. But don't you remember, dude? So it was that one moment. That was the only one moment that I remember like took the crowd by surprise. But I do remember going, how does this guy have this lung capacity? And I just remember thinking like, that guy has the greatest lung capacity I've ever seen in my entire life. I've never seen anybody continually sing and not take a breath. And he's doing this verse into this chorus and this verse into this chorus. Chester was so freaking impressive at that show that's what we talked about. There was even a journal that I have where I talked about that. I was like, this one dude sang in a way that I didn't know was possible. And I'm going to shoot for that. Not that I was trying to shoot for Chester because I didn't know who Chester was at the time, but I got to tell him that, we toured with them just a few years later in 2004 when they were the biggest band on the planet. And they were screaming by that point in One Step Closer. But yeah, man, like he was the coolest dude. We shared a birthday and I love those dudes, man. Those Linkin Park guys changed my life. So it's really cool that I got to see them at Mississippi Nights. That's a special moment for me.
Yeah, and us too. And we actually talked to Sonny from POD, and he would remembered that show. We had brought it up to him, and I remember Chester not being all that thrilled with the crowd. I think maybe because of their response. Because other than them, it was sort of a heavier show. POD, I think maybe Project 86 was on it. Head PE, maybe.
Yeah.
Head PE, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have that specific memory. So it's cool that you remember that as well, because that was definitely like it was before they really hit. Like you said, the single was out, and everybody knew that, but. Other than
Head PE, that dude came out that was the Voodoo era when he came out in all the neon paint, the Voodoo stuff. Oh, that was sick. That band was
dude, contact eyes and stuff.
Yeah, that band was wild at that show.
Yeah.
That was hey bartender, hit me with another.
They could write bangers though, those guys. Yeah. So catchy.
That was a wild time, dude. Project 86 was on that. Yeah, it was a good era. I miss Mississippi Nights. The other thing too is like Creepy Crawl. We would go, and we would hang out in the back and all that. Mississippi Nights though, that's where music took on. I'll say the music business took on like some meaning for me. Like I said, I got to see some of those bigger shows, and that was the first time I was like, how do you even pack this place as a local band? Like, what it started, it was the first time it made me think, like, how do I do this? And I saw people passing out flyers outside of Mississippi Nights. And that was like an unlock for me. So we would go to these shows that we couldn't even afford to go into. And we would tell the door guys like, hey, we're just going to pass out flyers. And they'd be like, okay, cool. And then we'd kind of prop the door open and stand there, and we got to watch shows through the doors. We're kind of far, but like I saw, who did we see? Shoot, what was it? What was a one-armed scissor band?
At the drive-in.
At the drive-in. I think it was at the drive-in or somebody. We saw a lot of cool shows through the doors for free, and then we would sit there and and then pass out our flyers because we were there to pass out flyers. Sometimes they wouldn't let us prop the door open, so whatever. So, but that was the first time it was like, this is real to me. I'm spending time away from everything that I'm supposed to be doing or sleeping or whatever, so I can try to make this band get closer to the next step. And Mississippi Nights was just like that was the place for that for me.
Moon on the Vulgar Display of Podcast. Finally, we've been trying to get you for a while now. Thanks for doing this, and thanks for giving us so much of your time, especially on short notice. Surfside presents BOB-A-RINO'S Class of 2003 reunion show, November 29th, Saturday at Off Broadway in St. Louis, Missouri. Doors are at 6, shows at 7, Last Flight Home, Bi-Level, Moon, and Enemy Airship, and Symphony of Punches. Thanks so much, man. Really appreciate your time and enjoy this conversation.
Thank you, man. Thank you guys for having me. I'd love to come back on and talk Greek Fire next year when it's time to release a record.
Absolutely.
Open invite.
Sick. Thanks, dude.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, buddy.